I think you've met, yep.
I bet I have it now with me.
When you do this,
Brenda's like, oh crap.
you make sure this is off,
So did you talk
and
to Chief about this?
we don't have to see it.
I was
Yes, I hear.
Tap, tap.
I'll be at four.
Tap, tap,
tap, tap.
tap, tap.
You ready?
Yeah.
Changing.
I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock.
Is your microphone on right now? Okay.
I'll do roll call. Clerk Butler Challenger here. Treasurer Jennifer Wilson.
Here?
Trustee Fewens Bliss.
Here.
Trustee Kellerman.
Here.
Trustee Phillips.
Here.
Trustee Rosecrans.
Here.
Supervisor Howe will be absent tonight. I would like to open the floor for nominations of the Supervisor Pro Temp due to the absence of Supervisor Howe.
I'll nominate trustee Ryan Fewens Bliss.
I'll second.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
No.
Mr. Fewens Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
Madam Clerk, can I clarify something for you? I didn't know if you were doing it for both meetings. I'm assuming it's for both meetings. Very good, thank you.
Yep. I'll turn the meeting over to Trustee Fewens Bliss.
Snuck behind me, sorry.
Now we can have Ms. Hassel.
Oh, just a meeting. Okay.
All right, folks, it's time for civic reflection then. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now a moment of silence. All right. Great to see everyone tonight. We are on our special board meeting. Oh, is off. How about that? We're on our special board meeting agenda tonight, where we'll be talking about the budget. Before we do that, let's talk about the agenda. Anybody have any changes to the agenda?
Not for this. This is for the first. Yeah, I guess for the, this is for the special
Special, we're
meeting.
at the
Okay, never
special.
mind. Okay.
I make a motion to accept the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll open the floor for public statement number 1, limited to 3 minutes. These are designated for statements concerning the current agenda items, which you can see on the agenda is the budget.
Good evening. Congratulations, Ryan, and welcome aboard, Jack.
Thank you.
Did they swear you in? Were you sworn in?
Yes, I was.
We
I
still
must have
it.
missed that, I'm sorry. Congratulations. My name is Judy Gardy, and tonight I'm representing the Senior Services Advisory Board. I've been up here many times to talk with you about the Senior Center. The most important reason for me to come tonight is you are going to be considering the ARPA funds. And since last year in November, we've come before the board with our strategic plan for the year. We've worked on our goals and our objectives. We've had our community conversation and engaged the community in discussion on the senior center. We hired an architect. He brought forward plans for you for an addition to the senior center, the cost being $522,000. Last year in July, when we presented the cost to you for the expansion of the senior center from a different architect who passed away this year, the cost was $350,000. This $522,000 includes a full basement, which we will use for storage and shelter and other things that come up, other things as they come up. I know that you've looked at the data that we presented to you on the senior center, and you probably have seen that our Meal program has grown by leaps and bounds. In August of 2022, we served a total of an average of 58 people a week for a total of 812 a month. In June of 2023, we served an average of 75 people a day for a total of 825 people a month. We're serving a lot of meals. We're preparing a lot of meals. We're serving a lot of people. The kitchen definitely needs some expansion, and we're crowded in the senior center. I'm sorry, a woman from the senior center gave me a picture that she wanted me to show you tonight. There are a lot of things that go on at the same time at the senior center. We have 14 to 20 people in the morning playing hand to foot. We have a yoga class going on, chair yoga class going on at the same time. 2 weeks ago I went to eat. They served 122 meals, and I couldn't find a chair. There was a card table that we could put up, but there were no chairs for people to sit in at the senior center. We are bursting at the seams, and it's a very appropriate action for you to take to fund the expansion or the addition of the senior center with the ARPA funds. Our seniors were isolated and alone and scared during the pandemic. They love the senior center. When they come into the senior center at lunchtime, it's like coming home. I wish all of you would come to the senior center. We've invited you many times, but Jack, if you haven't seen the results of our community conversation or the latest data that we've provided on the new building, I'd be happy to share that with you.
Thank you, Judy.
Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Welcome.
Good evening, I'm Jean Jones, and I'm on the Senior Advisory Board. I feel like the seniors were probably the one group that were hurt the most during COVID. We lost all contact with our friends. We didn't have any socialization. We didn't have any place to go because it was closed for months. We are scrunched in there. The card players are right up against people that are coming in for lunch. I think if you look at the proposal for the expansion, it's not grandiose. There's no frills. It includes a walk-in freezer and refrigerator for the kitchen. It includes area so that we can have our activities. The basement is simply because we're going to lose the shed, so we're going to lose the storage that we have. But I think that the senior center is probably one of the most important things in this township, and we are important. And I feel when you, and you have control over the funds to approve this expansion, and I feel like by turning us down or by saying no, you've already approved the steps that we've taken. I mean, we've had our community conversations that you wanted. We've got the architecture drawings, and now we come to the actually doing the expansion, and it feels like you're putting the brakes on. And it makes me feel like a second-class citizen. Like you don't care about us. And these are friends that we have over there. Sometimes they're the only contact that some of those people have. And I just ask you to please heartfully think about this expansion and approve it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
I'm Joy Lott. I used to speak before this group many times, but I haven't been around here for long, very much lately. But nowadays, we used to come early to lunch so that we could get a place to park. Now, we have to get there early to find a place to sit down. And it's getting so that we end up on card tables and wherever we can get a place to sit. We really have planned on hoping that this would happen, would get our addition for about 3 years now. we've talked about an addition. My dad, I used to come and eat here in the same building. It's been improved, enlarged once. But it's been there quite a long time, and it's quite a stable thing here in our area. And I really feel that we deserve to get a little bit larger, a place where we can really enjoy ourselves and really feel that our needs are met. We really do enjoy getting together and meeting together, and it's about the only place we go. A lot of us are getting up in ages so we can't get around much. In this place, we feel at home and that we have help. We'd appreciate your support.
Thank you, Joy.
Hi, I'm Janet Glisson. I've only been coming to the senior center since March or April, and I think you should pat yourselves on the back because this is a fantastic place. Most communities don't have a place like this. This is something you should be very proud of. I've met so many new friends and so many new people. A lot of people don't have nobody at home. They don't have families. When they walk into the senior center, somebody will call them by name and say, "Hi, how are you?" When I walked in and I said I'm a newbie, everybody came right up to me and introduced themselves and made me feel very welcome. That is something that you should pat yourself on the back because you have this fantastic place. Please, please, please let us grow. It's not only a time to meet friends, a place to go to eat a lot of good food, but it's very educational. They have speakers coming in. This week we had a police officer come in and talk to us about safety. We had a pharmacist come in to talk about the new vaccines that are being out. And if you had any questions about your own drugs, you could have brought it to his attention. We had a gentleman, Jim, from AmeriCorps Seniors, RSVP, recruiting volunteers. And I volunteered with several other people to volunteer to go out and do things for the community. So it's kind of like, you help us and we're going to help you back. And see if I said everything I wanted to. Yes. So thank you very much, and I hope it really continues.
Thanks, Janet. Any other public comments? All right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. That puts us at new business. Items for introduction, discussion. We're back to the 2024 fiscal year Board of Trustees budget recommendations. We've been working at this for several months. I think we're probably on to draft 2, phase 2, before we do our approval probably next month. Do you want to take it away, Superintendent Hildebrand?
I do. I would like to understand how this board would like to go through this version. This has been transformed from the department head requests and my recommendation to now my recommendation and the board's version of this. So you can make your mark on this. I can explain if we'd like to go quickly, page by page. I don't think we need to rest at every page, but we can go through where things have been changed if that's what you wish to do.
What are folks thinking for tonight?
I would say just the changes.
Changes, okay?
The rest of it's basic.
Okay.
Karen, is there a large print version in my mailbox over there?
I don't know, but there can be, I think there's probably one on the counter.
All right. Why don't you start? I'll go grab it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the major changes that we talked about, and something that the treasurer and I still need to work on, is the Metro funds that we think have been combined with the local community stabilization funds from the state. We think our accounting team that is hired outside has lumped those all into one fund, so we will continue to work with them to understand where those monies are at. And that includes 101000567, which is the Metro Act revenue, and then 2 lines down, there's 101000573. So we need to investigate a little further to make sure that those monies are being broken out. Moving to page, excuse me. It was one in the old budget. I also updated line 699 to reflect, those are cemetery transfers into the general fund. That was on, let me see the notes.
Shows page 4
Two.
here.
Page 4,
two or
page
four?
2 at the bottom, cemetery transfer
Oh,
for
okay.
services.
I must
But there's
have a
also a
different-
note.
No, you have the
There's a
notes.
note.
You're on the notes part,
Oh,
yep,
very
the
good,
line
very
item.
good.
Yep,
Okay,
So
very
so
good.
there is a note there.
Okay,
You're looking at the notes portion.
thank you.
Cemetery transfer fund?
Yes, so the cemetery
I see it now.
transfers funds to the general fund for the time and the
original
utilities,
one? There was no
gasoline
one
used by DPW to take care of the cemeteries on behalf of the township. Don't think there were any major changes in the township board, which is page number 5. I have my new and old version in front of me, so I just want to make sure I'm hitting the pages correctly. I don't believe there were any changes in the supervisor department. That's page 7. Page 8, I will point out, I believe trustee Fewens Bliss is the one that requested that the mileage stipend that's part of my contract be moved to the benefits line item, and that has occurred here in this page. What I will need to rectify is I did not do the same thing for the fire chief or the police chief, and I apologize for that mistake. I'll note that when we get to those lines, and as well as the treasurers. So that change does need to be made, but that can be reflected with any other changes this board wants to this next version that we're working on. Page 9, there are several new line items, and that is to reflect, the assessor's department used to have temporary salaries. That has been changed over to staff salaries, because she has a new person that will be joining her department, as well as a telephone. She receives a data stipend, and that will now be reflected under telephone instead of under miscellaneous. Moving to page 10, the same thing is going to happen in the clerk's department. Telephone charges will be moved out of miscellaneous, and they will be reflected in the telephone line item. And if there's any questions, please feel free to stop me. I believe also I had to recalculate the clerk. The salary line for the clerk may look a little different. That is a 3% increase plus a longevity increase, which I miscalculated in the previous version, so that's been corrected.
Will you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
The clerk's salary previously was 82,478, and I've corrected it to 82,449. I don't know how, but I miscalculated the 3% increase plus a longevity increase.
So longevity increases go to the elected officials too.
I have done that, but if it's this board's desire, that certainly can be changed.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. On page 11, I do not believe there's any changes there for engineering or border review. The treasurer's department on page 12, you will notice that I did not, in fact, move the $2,400 that is given to the treasurer as a stipend for traveling to the bank. That does need to be moved to benefits, and then, of course, because that formula changed down below, I need to fill in some numbers there, so my apologies for that. No changes to computer services. Ordinance compliance. So the mileage reimbursement was removed, and then there are some new line items for gasoline and fuel. A former police cruiser has been repurposed to give the ordinance compliance officer a vehicle when he travels into the community for ordinance violations or complaints that he needs to investigate. It was important to me that it not be a fire vehicle, so that there was no bad connotation with the fire department and with the ordinance compliance, so it's a repurposed vehicle. As a result of that, there's a gasoline and fuel line item as well as a repair and maintenance vehicle line item that is now included in that department. as well as a postage. In the past, when he's mailed out notifications for ordinance compliance violations, that has been put to miscellaneous, and I felt it was more appropriate that it had its own line item.
Okay, Karen?
Yes.
I noticed that, I believe he got more than a 3% increase. Did he have more duties now, or?
So he is, this salary is in fact split between the fire department and the ordinance compliance office. There are more responsibilities. He's also the fire marshal as well as the assistant fire chief. So in the three of those, yes, he does now have more responsibilities.
So what is that increase now?
I would need to calculate the increased total, because I can provide that number. I'm not prepared to do that right now. I'm sorry.
Did you calculate it?
I did not calculate
Oh, okay.
it. Sorry, I just noticed it, so.
I think it's possibly 4 or 5% at this time. There are no changes to elections. Moving to page 16 of your budget, there was a major change here. I removed the $165,000 for the camera and the keyless access system. A note in the memo that accompanied your new budget indicates that this board needs to decide if it wants that system. It needs to be determined whether it's ARPA funds or if it is in fact gonna be coming out of the general fund. Those were included down in building improvements. So it now reflects 30,000 instead of the 196 that it was previously. No changes on page 17, which is the notes and then legal services for building and grounds. Moving to page 18, per trustee Rosecrance's request, I did increase the road budget by $200,000. This board will need to determine if that's what they choose to do. Next year is major work on the Webster Road corridor, and as well as I believe the road commission may not get to Ann Drive this year, and if that's the case, you'll need to reallocate those funds for next year as well. Social services on page 19, there were no changes to that department. I believe on page 20 that the notes were cut off for Parks and Recreation at the bottom of this page. I will need to correct that for you. There are 4 notes at the top of page 21, but I do think that it cut off additional notes that were necessary for you to understand some of the line items in this budget. So I'll have to fix that. I did include overtime for Becca's work with elections. She has worked for elections in the past, so there is some overtime included in her salary as well. Operating transfers out changed significantly. If you recall, last time we were here, I had not included benefits for the police department. Those are now included. As well as transfers to the senior center fund and then transfers to capital projects.
So we increased the senior center fund transfers, is that to cover the Tuesday and Thursday?
Yes, it's 5 days a week. So yes, that, I believe it was a $20,000 difference
Okay,
than what the previous amount was.
okay.
Karen, can I ask you a question on this?
Certainly.
Transfers to capital projects. Once again, remember, I'm trying to catch up here.
Sure.
Is that stuff that's currently in the works or coming up?
So it's currently in the works. We are awaiting the drain commissioner and the county to transfer ownership of land at the end of Webster Road to the township, at which time we can proceed with the Park Lake Nature Trail, as it's been referred to. That will be the trailhead and the parking lot to that trail. So this 50,000, it joins money that's already sitting in capital projects And this will total about $50,000 to establish the parking lot and the trailhead.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that concludes the general fund. Beginning on page 22, you're looking at the public safety fund. You'll notice that you have the police and fire taxes coming in, as well as the operating transfer in from the general fund. This is an area of concern for me, and as I know it is for most of you. This amount continues to grow, and we value police and fire. We may need to seek out an increase in the millage. But that is a discussion that this body will need to have as we move over the next 6 to 9 months, if it is to be possibly next year. So looking at page 23, I noted earlier that I failed to transfer the chief's vehicle stipend to benefits. That will be completed with an update of this draft. The other major change would be that I added the benefits to this department that were not in the previous version. Looking at page 20, I'm sorry, I have, like I said, 2 versions here. Same thing on page 25 of your budget is to move the money for the fire chief's vehicle stipend to benefits as well. That needs to be done. I'm not seeing any questions, so I will continue. Moving to the cemetery fund, there were no changes there. Page 28 is the senior center special revenue. This is where you will see fundraising and donations, as well as an approximate, an estimate, for the senior center meals. I have been conservative with this number, but I have indicated that it is built out of 149 serving days times 57 meals average times the amount charged per meal, for a total of approximately $34,000. Then you'll see at the bottom, operating transfers in from the general fund is the other significant source of revenue for that fund, which is $155,000. There were no changes to senior center appropriations. Moving to the farmer's market on page 30, also there were no changes. On page 31, you have the DDA. You have the revenue that's currently sitting there from the dissolution of the DDA. And I have projected using $150,000 in the DDA district to help fix sidewalks that are rated poor or substandard. That would hopefully be completed in 2024 when we're doing the Safe Routes to School work. You can find the revenue for the Building and Zoning Department on page 32. That has not changed. You'll see revenue comes predominantly from zoning application fees, building permits, trade permits, and then the treasurer and I need to work on this as well. There's no other revenue, and the amount listed there for approximately $73,000 is actually coming from their fund balance. So it's listed under the wrong line item currently, but the treasurer and I can fix that very easily. Excuse me. Moving on to drug forfeiture on page 34, there were no changes in this department. Moving to the library on page 35. There was a question which the treasurer and I need to work through with our accountants. We believe that the red number that you're seeing under activity is actually for a community stabilization fund transfer. So we need to work through why that occurred in this department and if it needs to be there or if it needs to be changed. There were no changes in police training, which is page 36. There were no changes to 37 with the auto theft prevention fund, which is also a police fund utilized. That moves us to page 38, which is the capital projects. Trustee Phillips, this is where you asked the question about what it was for. You'll note here that there's $50,000 for the Park Lake Nature Trail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And finishing out, there were no changes to the sewer fund or the water fund. So those numbers remain the same. That also goes for streetlights, which is the last page of your budget. So those, all three of those funds stayed the same. I know I went through that rather quickly. Are there any questions regarding any of the changes that were made or still need to be made?
I have a question,
I
but
see it
not
forming.
about the topic that you just asked.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Oh, thank you. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So I'm reading the cover page now of the memo. Am I reading this right, that this calls for a general fund balance use of 1.6+ million dollars?
Correct,
But also other fund balances as well?
correct.
Do you have a general sense of how much
I don't because.
change from the other funds we're using?
So I don't have a sense of that, and I apologize for that. As we get closer to the end of the year, we are in a better position to estimate what will be left, both in current fund balance and in projected fund balance. So that number, I understand, looks enormous, and it's a scary number, but I do believe that it will be less based on the fund balance that we have available, especially in public safety for both the police and the fire departments, as well as the fund balance that will be created from the year 2023.
Yeah, even fractionally, I think it's still pretty large. I mean, we're
I
probably
agree with
talking
you.
close to 2 million.
Correct.
Of all of our fund balances, which we have the funding, certainly.
But I understand the concern to continue
We
using
just won't, we won't
general
have
fund
that much.
balance.
Yeah. I think we definitely have to talk about revenue next year at the earliest. What's not in here would be then the ARPA funds, because none of this is
Correct, none of
budgeted
this,
for
no,
ARPA funds.
none of this, I
Okay.
don't have, I haven't included that, that is a separate item in your next meeting agenda.
Okay. Didn't mean to hog those questions, folks. Any? That's good. Questions, clarifications from you all?
So you were scheduled to have a public hearing at the next meeting on the 20th for this budget. So that necessitates you indicating to me what changes you would like to see, if any, or if this is the version that goes to the public hearing. Of course, you can make changes after that, but you're on schedule to adopt this in the beginning of December.
That, of course, includes the changes where you noted that changes need to be in the budget.
Correct,
Okay.
correct, the corrections, yes.
Corrections.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
So Karen, after you make the corrections, will we get another
You
updated one?
Yes, you would.
I said this last meeting, but I'll just say it out loud again. I hope that we can schedule this so that we'll have the public meeting this month and the vote next month.
Correct. That is the way that will,
Great.
that is what you indicated previously, and that is what will occur. You will
Thank
have
you.
the public hearing on the November 20th meeting. and then you will have the vote for this in December.
Great, then folks can actually give
Correct.
us feedback, we can process the feedback if we need to, and then vote. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Most of the, lot of the expense is the police and fire
Correct.
of that $1.6 million. So that's something that gonna have to be worked on.
It is. I think that in my time here since 2012, I don't believe we've added officers to the police department, and now we've done that. I also don't believe we've purchased or replaced more than one vehicle. So we have an aging fleet. We have aging buildings. I mean, I know the fire department was new at the, 1998, 1999, early 2000s, but that building also needs work as well. And there is a replacement schedule for the police vehicles, and we're replacing 1 to 2 of those a year, but of course, costs continue to increase.
Yeah.
Have you received any feedback on the MERS, where the employee right now pays 19.96%, and next year it'll go up to 25.46%?
So we are continuing to work on that, and it is a concern of mine because it speaks to both our retention of good employees plus our ability to recruit other employees, including police and fire. We have one study back from MERS currently with a frozen final average compensation, thank you, I couldn't find the words. But we are waiting for another actuarial to come back with, that has without a frozen FAC. So there will be material brought to this board to make a decision on that, but it's a very serious issue for me.
So if
But
we
we're
don't
not quite there yet.
If we don't get the information until next year, could we still change it, or does it have to only be changed in December of each year?
I think that we can change it either way. I would like to change it before January 1st, because that would prevent the 25% from kicking in to our employees. Please, go ahead.
I wanted to bring this up, that was going to interrupt in the wrong place, but I talked to the chief, and what he was saying, that there's a time frame here that the 3 guys that are near retirement, if they can't cash it in now, it would mean $500 less per month for his life.
Correct.
So to me, I think we need to do it as fast as we can.
We're trying to, yeah.
Okay,
We're
just-
still
just-
waiting
I
on
just
one
wanna- I
actuarial,
just
and then
wanna
we can
bring
bring that to the
Okay,
board.
yeah, as fast as we can.
I agree with you.
That's scary.
Ms. Silverman, I'd just kind of like to clarify that those 3 people are not just all police department employees, they're
No, they're
scattered
not.
throughout the-
No, there's 3, one police admin, and then I believe our assessors in that
Yeah,
boat too.
that's a scary thought to
It
plan
is.
that and then.
Those were the ones that they're very close to retirement within the next 3 to 5 years, and that's why it impacts them differently. For the
Right.
rest of us that have 10 years or more, it
wouldn't
hits
be
us a little
bad.
different.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's, it's a scary thought.
Do you think you would come to either different or better decision-making if you did have more time? If we did allow the 25% to kick in for a short time,
No,
allowing you to do the
I'm afraid that I
background?
would lose employees in the meantime, if we weren't to act sooner than later. I have been told by people that have said, like, I couldn't pay that. It means less money in their paycheck next year for them, moving from 19 to 25%. I am worried that I would lose good people.
I would also add that, of course, there are other creative ways to address this issue, and I can certainly work with Ms. Hildebrandt to continue exploring those issues. There are other non-contract, non-MERS actions we could consider as a Band-Aid approach to avoid the implementation of that increase, even if the contract would call for those compensations to change. So I can talk about that with Madam Superintendent, and then we can bring those back to this board if it's appropriate.
I would find that helpful, just, it feels like we're rushing. Brenda didn't say that, but I sort of felt it from her sitting next to her now. And, bad decisions are often made from rushing. But if there's a way to protect our employees, but also give you the time to like see it all, to be able to decide where we should go in a more strategic way, that feels like a win.
Okay.
I mean, do other people?
I'd like to hear what Lizzie has to offer also, maybe she has different ideas.
Yeah, I'd be happy to present those. Like I said, usually that's a workshopping thing I wouldn't normally, put in front of you if you're not used to the mechanics of all of those things. I'll talk with Madam Superintendent and her team and go through that, and then we can present whatever seems palatable or most achievable to you.
Thank you.
Just a question, do either of you feel that, absent a novel approach to doing that, that if you allowed MERS to start with a 25, that you'd ever have them be able to retract that? Because I don't have any confidence in that at all.
You absolutely can. That they're governed by the adoption agreements that this township that they approve. And so long as we want to change, they must effectuate it. They typically have a lead-up time that they would like to have. But if we tell them, hey, it's New Year's Eve and we've made a change, they may have to make that change as soon as possible.
Thank you.
That's good to know.
It is good to know.
Additional questions?
I know this will not put me in Al's good graces, but maybe this isn't the year to add $200,000 to the roads with a $2 million drawdown in fund balance.
That's a small amount compared to what we're putting into the police department. And you have to drive them roads every day to get to work.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we don't maintain them, we're gonna end up with problems. Not that that's gonna affect.
No, I hear you.
It's
I
not gonna
didn't,
fix
I don't
that.
disagree with anything you're saying. I just,
2 million.
that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I know it's gonna be less, and I believe you, and every time you say that, you have turned out to be absolutely correct. But even less than 2 million is still, it's still a big number.
I understand.
But I do think that our residents are demanding more services, good roads and more staff and being protected by the police and more senior services. And so I don't think it's something that we could just like cut ourselves out of this without really making our township residents feel that. I think we're at a size now where we haven't right-sized the revenue, we've right-sized everything else. And the time is nigh.
I agree.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments from folks? All right, do you feel like you've got your marching
So I feel
orders?
like with the, other than you taking an action on changing the amount that's in roads in the Department of Public Works, there are some corrections that will need to be made, and then this will be the version that goes to public comment, basically. When people come in to comment, they will be using that new version.
Are folks comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Any other, that's Karen's way of saying, say it now, or? All right,
Okay?
feel good about that then?
I do. I feel like there are clearly some things that need to be updated and changed, but barring any changes from the rest of you, that'll be it.
So for the public, it sounds like there's still opportunity for them to weigh in on this, to speak to board members, to staff members, to come to meetings, to come to the public hearing, so things are not closed yet.
Yes.
All right, are we ready to move on then?
Yep.
There's no items for action. That brings us to our second public statement. This is 3 minutes on any topic. Anyone like to address the board again or for the first time?
Ryan, I think you might want to change your name tag because on TV you're appearing as Marie Howe. You might want to switch your name tag.
That does feel like it would have consequences for me.
And I would also like to kindly ask you to turn up the volume on the microphones, and when you do speak, speak into your microphone so that we can hear you. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
I too looked at the retirement change and the impact it would have on employees. My previous job was the budget officer for the Department of Corrections, a $2 billion budget, and every 0.1% ran into millions for me. Who and how did the 11% number get fixed? I would suggest we look back and find out where the township engaged a limit of 11% that they wanted to pay that it forced our employees to go up to 19 and 25%. If it was a statutory change, whether it was a board decision, which makes it much easier to adjust. But every so often, these things are lost in history, and you'll suddenly find out there's some statute buried in Public Act 431 of 2000 or 1847 or something, and you end up tripping over it. So I would suggest it might be to our benefit, not necessarily this next 2.5 weeks, but that we go back and annotate where some of these things have come from for the next group that comes in. Because a lot of people are hitting that age that they just want to retire and not have to deal with all this stuff anymore. And we found it beneficial to engage in that project during the summer when I was going out on spending plan meetings, because I had a whole lot of people that knew where some of this stuff came from, so that we could pass it on to the next person. And then when some senator didn't like it, we could say, well, here's the Public Act and here's the section. And it certainly resolved a lot of problems. But I agree with you, when you got somebody gonna take a 6% pay cut because of the increase in retirement rate, they're gonna boogie out before 12/31 to fix their retirement benefit and not have it go upside down. We ran into it a couple of times in state government. Boy, did we. Suddenly, corrections, because corrections officers were a special group. If your formula wasn't set right in your spreadsheet, it went through every one of the 17,000 employees and sucked numbers back and forth. Mine was right. The state budget office one was wrong. They had run their numbers, and when I came in and told them I needed another $28 million, they said, we don't have it. I said, well, you better figure it out, because it's not a failure on our part to calculate it. Your formula's wrong. It took me 3 days to find the error in their formula. But, you know, it's one of those things where you can find out where the numbers are coming from. Sometimes MERS is good. Sometimes occasionally they have a formula bump. And for it to bounce that much, something's wrong, and they probably ought to justify to you what happened. Because it doesn't, it's a huge number compared to numbers I've seen, and I started on the state's budget in '91. So it's almost 30 years of knowledge on that little booger, and this is just a big jump. Because we handle education and everybody else's, transportation, federal funds, you name it, but that's the only reason I was asking.
I know you've been with us before, but can you?
My name's Terry Klein, I live out on Hunter Road.
Thank you, I
In the
forgot your
woods.
first name.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Thanks, Terry. That was helpful advice. Other folks? All right. Let's shift into board member comments and then wrap up for our special board meeting. Sherry, do you want to start us out?
No comments?
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me tonight.
I just want to clarify, we had spoke at the last meeting that we were going to have another special meeting on November 20th at 5 o'clock to continue reviewing the board meeting rules of order. Are we still going to have that? That's a question.
That's a really good question.
Are we going to go ahead and do it in a regular meeting, or go ahead and just finish it maybe in a special meeting? That's the question.
I think we've proven that we cannot do it in a regular meeting.
So we'll go ahead and we'll plan on that?
Well,
Keep
I
it in
mean,
the special meeting, I guess.
do we want to pursue that?
They need to be
I think we
updated.
should
They
wait till
need to be
after the
updated.
first of the year so we can get the budget done.
If we do it at a 5 o'clock meeting, we'll just have that
That hour.
hour.
Yeah, but we still got, you've got, what, 2 more 5 o'clock meetings?
No,
Nope. this
so let's
last-
go to regular
Or you've got a
meetings
public hearing,
at 6.
it's-
or you're gonna have it at 6?
I'm pretty sure it's part of,
The regular
part of the
meeting.
regular
Oh,
meeting.
all right. Okay. We used to have it at 5. Get it out of the way,
Oh, the public hearing.
yeah.
So is that a yay or a nay? I'm lost.
It sounds like a yes.
I think should be a yes. Let's finish it. We've started it. We're almost done.
Dear God, let's finish it, yes.
You know,
Okay.
we
November
don't want to
20th,
lose
5
it.
PM
We've lost
special
already a
meeting.
month on it, so
For the board rules. Okay.
the board
Yeah, there's
meeting
some
rules of
sunk
order.
cost of our lives in there. Let's finish that up.
Okay,
Thank you for poking at that,
Thanks.
Brenda. Yeah,
Nothing.
all right, nothing from me. With that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned until 6 PM for our regular board meeting.